Good morning, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about chronic and communicable disease in this lesson plan, but today we're going to be talking about two chronic and communicable diseases that are very prevalent in lives of elementary students like you all. So the first one, we're going to be talking about two today. We're going to be talking about asthma. That's what we're going to be talking about first. And we're also going to be talking about pink eye, if you've ever heard of that. I want you to sit back and think for a second and think, do you know anybody who has asthma? It might be a teammate, it might be your friend, it might be your parent, it might be one of your parents' friends. And then I also want you to think if you've ever know anybody who has ever had pink eye before. And if you don't know what pink eye is or what asthma is, that's okay, because that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, the background on asthma. So what asthma is, it's a chronic lung disease that inflames and narrows the airways. So what's an airway, you might ask? Well, an airway is a tube that brings air into and out of somebody's lungs. So that means the paths that lead air into your lungs so that you can breathe, it becomes swollen, and then that makes the airway smaller and not as much air can get out. And right now, asthma is the most common chronic disease among children. So there is a very high chance that one of y'all may know somebody who has asthma, or somebody in your class might have asthma right now. And here's a little picture I just wanted to show you. So here's the lungs. These lungs are what makes you able to breathe. But how do you get air in the lungs? Well, from what's called an airway right here. That right there, see how it connects to the lungs? That brings air into your lungs. And so a normal airway, like I'm somebody, thankfully I was blessed. I do not have asthma, nor have I ever had asthma. But so this is what my airway looks like. And so this is what a normal airway looks like. You see it's a wide enough gap, air comes in and out through it. That's the muscle. My airway section is open and just perfectly able to get air in. But for somebody with asthma, as you can see, remember, asthma means that your airways are inflamed and swollen. Look at how much more the muscles have constricted and gotten bigger. You see this little airway right here? See how big and open this one is compared to this one? This one's very tiny to begin with, but it also has mucus in it. You know mucus, that little gross stuff you get all in your throat when you get sick and stuff like that. Well, that's what gets into the asthma airways, and that's what asthma is. So what do you think? You think it's easy to breathe if you have normal airways like this? Do you think it's harder for somebody to breathe if they have all this going on in their airways? Yes, correct. That means that their airways are swollen shut and all that good junk. So some common symptoms of asthma include coughing, wheezing, tightness in the chest, and shortness of breath. So if you've ever seen somebody with asthma and they're going through having asthma right now, they're going to be coughing, it's going to be loud, they're going to be trying to breathe, they're going to get tightness in their chest, they're going to get shortness in their breath, they're going to all that good junk. And so you might be asking yourself, what causes asthma? Well, we don't necessarily know what causes asthma right now, and it's thought that maybe a variety of factors interacting with one another early in life result in development of asthma. So when asthma starts off when you're very young, and not many people, so there's not really a true exact cause for it, so we don't really know what it is, but that's okay. Some ideas about it is that the parents with asthma might have, if your parents have asthma, it might be genetic, and so it might cause you to have asthma. And a TOBI you might get, and if you get an infection in your respiratory system is what helps you breathe. And so if you get an infection in that, you might get asthma. Also, exposure to allergens or infections while the immune system is developing. So as you're young and growing, that means your immune system is also growing and developing, just like you are. You know how you grow up, all that junk. So if you get exposed to different allergens or infections and your immune system doesn't know how to fight that, then that could also lead to asthma as well. So the diagnosis, how do they diagnose someone? They base it on your medical history, and then they base it on a physical examination of your lungs and your airways and your pathways about what that is. And then also they can even do test results for asthma to see how somebody develops it and then what happens with it, and yeah, all that good stuff. So saying, if somebody does have asthma, like say I have asthma, what is something that might trigger that? Well, I'm glad you asked. A variety of things that can cause asthma symptoms you hear are allergens. Like, right now here in Louisiana, it's been pollen season. So if somebody's allergic to pollens, that can actually trigger asthma and can actually block up their airways and get all the mucus and stuff in there. Or even if many things, somebody might be allergic to, my older brother was allergic to horses. If he had asthma, maybe if he touched a horse, then that could bring it on to him. So it can be a variety of different things. Just think about, you might be allergic to something. Think about what you're allergic to, or think about what maybe one of your friends are allergic to or something like that. Also, irritants can bring upon it as well. Different food and drinks can bring upon it as well. And this just kind of depends. It's not like a specific food or drink. It's like, I know that peanut butter is one that can sometimes set off asthma, because peanut butter is something that's if you've ever tried to just eat a spoonful of peanut butter, it can get stuck in there and get all nasty and all that stuff. Or different drinks like that. Different medicines, if you aren't using, you might have a weird reaction to a medicine that you're taking or a pill that you're taking. And different medicines, they also have what's called side effects, where one of the side effects could be, swollen airways in your lungs or something like that. A big one, and this is the one that I've seen more than anything, is physical activity. And so I'll just give you a quick story from one of my examples. I used to have a friend in high school who I played football with, and he had asthma. He had it ever since he was little, and he was a bigger dude. He was on the bigger side. He was an O lineman, and so he didn't have a ton of stamina. So every time he would have to run around a lot and do all that stuff, he could kind of feel because he had it for so long, he could kind of feel the asthma coming along, and he would I could be 100 yards across the field, and I would hear, and I knew that his name was Josh. And I knew that was Josh having one of his asthma attacks, because he'd run around so a lot, and it'd be really hard for him to breathe, because once you do a lot of physical activity, what happens? You start breathing hard. If I was to go around and take a bunch of laps around my house and run around, I would start breathing hard because I did a lot of physical activity. Well, if you're having to breathe hard and run around and your airways start getting tighter because you have asthma and there's a bunch of mucus built up, then it's going to be really, really hard to breathe, and you're not going to be able to breathe as much air as you need to breathe. You're not going to be able to get as much as you need at that time, because your airways aren't wide enough and big enough for you to get those. Also, you might have what's called an upper respiratory infections, which is just another infection, another sickness, another viral thing to go with it. Excuse me. And so in the United States, asthma prevalence, more females than males actually have asthma. And we don't really know why that is. It's just a thing, more females than males have asthma. And then also some things can happen with your culture. So blacks and American Indian Alaska Natives have higher percentages of asthma than whites, Hispanic, and Asians. Again, it's just how the numbers are. We don't really know why that is. And so here's a couple charts just to show how prevalent asthma is. As you can see, 8% of females have it and 6% of males have it. So more females than males is what we just talked about. See, Mexicans, the highest percent that has it is Puerto Ricans. Almost have 20% of people who have asthma. Is that not crazy? You can see if you add all of these, more people from 0 to 17 years have asthma than more people older than that. So it's mostly younger people, younger students who have asthma. You can see that almost 8% of the world's population has asthma as well. And we have a lifetime asthma diagnosis. And so again, what we just talked about, how many people will get this at least once in their lifetime? You see Puerto Ricans, almost 25%. It's almost a quarter of Puerto Ricans. And you can see 12% of females, 10% of males will get it. 18 years and older, 10%, 0 to 17, 12%. Almost 11% of people in the world will have some form of asthma at some point in their life. And so some disparities that we're talking about. Death from asthma is actually 3 times more likely to occur among blacks than whites. And among adults, women of all races have higher rates of illness and death from asthma than men. But also this could just play a factor in the fact that there are more women who have it in general than men do. And then so we're going, rates of hospitalization for asthma for blacks are almost triple of those than whites. Again, we're really not sure why it's like more for one ethnicity than the other. It's just kind of how it is. And then now we'll talk about how asthma can kill some people. So the number of deaths per 100,000. It's females 1, male 1 in 100,000. Like we talked about, Puerto Ricans, they're very high, they're high for having it. They're almost at 5. But still, it's not something that's asthma isn't something that necessarily kills a ton of people a year. So it's like 1 in 100,000. But these are people, if they don't take care of themselves, they don't take care of their asthma, they don't know what they're doing. And so asthma rates, they've been increasing in the United States for both adults, children, males, and females in different races and ethnicities. So right now, asthma, the number is only going higher for asthma. It's only getting more and more prevalent for a lot of people. And so in 15 years, it's estimated that the number of people with asthma worldwide will increase by 25%. That's a lot. And 25% may not sound like a lot, but if you add the amount of people in the world, that's a lot of people who are going to be affected in some type of way with asthma. And then here's just some more charts so you can see. You can see that this purple line is children and how prevalent the child to adult ratio of who has asthma. And you'll see right here that children have more prevalence of asthma than adults. It's not by a lot, but there is more. And then instead of children and adults, we have this by race and ethnicity. So this red line would be African Americans, the yellow line would be whites, and then the green line would be Hispanics. As you can see, that African Americans have more prevalence with asthma, and then it's Hispanics, and then it's whites. You can see that it's not increasing by a ton, but it's increasing a little bit. It's on that steady slope up. Just like you can see on this one we're talking about, it's increasing as well. And now we'll talk about the worldwide burden of asthma. So 300 million people suffer from asthma worldwide. 300 million, think about that. That is a lot. And then in the United States, in 2005, I know this was 15 years ago, but there were over 250,000 asthma deaths in 2005. And that number's only been increased, which is insane. And then in other countries, over 80% of asthma deaths occur in low and lower middle income countries. So sadly, just for people who cannot, necessarily afford to take care of themselves. Or have you ever seen asthma kids? What they use to help with their asthma is the breath of air that helps open their airways. Some people are not able to afford that. And then so, like I was talking about, asthma, it can't be cured. You can't just get rid of asthma automatically, sadly. They're still trying to work on that, but it can be controlled. So there's long-term quick relief and bronchial thermoplasty to help control asthma. These are different medications to help somebody with that. And then asthma is different for everyone. So everyone who has asthma, eventually they learn to recognize their own trigger and what sets it off, what makes their lungs collapse really hard, and what triggers that asthma to come on to them. And then so they see this and they start taking steps to avoid this. Here's some more medication that helps them: inhaled corticosteroid, which is that thing that they do, modifiers, beta agonistics, and then inhalers. There's also some quick treatment, ipratropium, oral corticosteroids, bronchial thermoplasty, avoiding the triggers like we were just talking about. And so right now, I just want you to do a quick little exercise to see what somebody with asthma goes through. I want you to get where you're standing, and I want you to do 10 push-ups with nothing in your mouth. 10 push-ups. Now you're kind of breathing a little hard, huh? Now that you're breathing a little hard, I want you to feel how you're breathing. You see, that's the airway coming into your lungs. Now, I want you to take a straw. And I want you to just breathe out of that straw. And I want you to do 5 more push-ups. And no matter what, I want you to continue just to breathe through the straw out through your mouth, not through your nose. Wow. When I wasn't able to only breathe through that straw and not through my mouth and my nose, that was really hard for me to do that. And that is just a quick example of what somebody with asthma goes through. So my airways are big, right? But now I was just using an airway that was something as wide as this little straw right here. That's what I was using as my airway. That's just a quick example of what somebody with asthma goes through. Their airways get really small, just like that straw. And if you were trying to breathe through a straw, if you had one, it's really hard. It's really tough. If you can't do that right now, then after this lesson, I want you to just try to do something quick that gets you breathing hard, and then try to breathe just through the straw, and you'll see what somebody with asthma goes through. So that is our lesson on asthma. So right now, we're going to move on to pink eye, or the scientific term for pink eye is conjunctivitis, or it's sometimes called magicide, pink eye flu, and it's the redness and inflammation of the membranes covering the whites of the eyes and on the inner part of the eyelids. So your eyelids actually have stuff and membranes that's covering them to help protect them, and sometimes they'll get inflamed, and then that's what's called pink eye. So the leading cause of pink eye is a viral infection. And a number of different viruses can be responsible. So it's not just like one specific virus. You know how like AIDS has HIV, and HIV is a virus, right? No, this has different viruses for it. And there are different signs and symptoms. Some vary from moderate, and then some are very severe. And then, so if your eye gets red, or hyperemia is a scientific term for it, that's a common symptom. That's the most common symptoms, hence the name pink eye. Your eye gets red and gets this like really bright red, pinkish looking color. Or you could have swollen or red eyelids. Like you see this little girl, this eye right here is perfectly normal, and this part up here is swollen. her eyelid, as you can see right there. And you'll see they'll have more tear production in the eyes than usual. So your eyes will just start getting really watery. It's not like you're sitting there crying, but your eyes will get watery and then it'll become a problem. You'll see that right there. Like you see right here, the eyes, that's where the tear ducts form. And then also, probably the most annoying one is like, it'll make you feel as though there's something in your eye when there's really nothing. So you'll be sitting there scratching. You ever seen someone with pink eye? They sit there and scratch it the whole time, even though they're telling them not to scratch. They're sitting there scratching it. They're like, oh, I just cannot get this out of my eye, even though there's nothing in there right now. It's just infected. It can be an itching or a burning sensation, so that's why you see this little kid sitting there rubbing his eyes. And feel like your eye's on fire. You see somebody that's pink eye, they're usually like doing this, closing that eye, because if they open it, it just gets really burny and stuff like that. Have you ever tried to keep your eyes open for a long time? They start burning, right? They start burning, yeah. Another thing is sensitivity to light. So if I went outside, our pink eye looked up, it'd be really bright, and even though somebody who doesn't have it would be looking at it, it's like, it's not that bright. And also, from where I'm from, we call these eye boogers, but it's a creamy white or like a thick yellow drainage that causes the eyelids to be red or puffy, and then the eyelids stick together in the morning, and then maybe indicate a bacterial infection. So if you ever had an eye booger that's stuff, that little discharge that gets in your eye, and you're like, what is that? That's a symptom of it. Then how does a doctor usually diagnose somebody with pink eye? Well, they can usually diagnose pink eye by distinguishing the symptoms that we just talked about. That's the signs and symptoms. And then there's also something called a slit lamp examination, which may be required, but that's just him putting a bright light up to your eye and then making sure like it's fine and everything with that. Whoop, my bad. And when it means something more is that it also can be a sign of a different illness in the body. Although this is rare, it can be a sign of that. And you might be asking, well, I don't want pink eye. How do I get this? How do I stop getting this? The thing is, pink eye is very, very contagious. That's why you see when somebody has pink eye, they need to stay home. They do not need to go anywhere. If your friend has pink eye, you should not be around them as much. You should not be hanging around them. You should not be touching what they touch. It's spread by direct contact with infected people. So if I was gonna touch it, if somebody with pink eye touched this and then I touch this, start rubbing my eye, there's a very good chance I'll get pink eye. And then so how do you prevent it? You wash and disinfect, and it can help prevent the spread of it. Like I said, wash your hands frequently to get all those germs and viruses off. And then avoid touching your eye area like I'm doing right now. I'm not doing a good job. I'm sitting here touching my eye trying to talk to y'all, but try avoiding that. And then you should never share towels or hankies, because, you know, when people share towels and stuff, they start rubbing their face extra again and everything. Also, pillowcases are a bad one. If you use a tissue, throw it away. Don't make somebody else have to pick it up and throw it away, because if they pick it up, that's end up being bad. And then change your bed linens and towels daily. You should be washing your bed sheets a lot. Change your towels. Don't use the same towel over and over again. Disinfect your surfaces. Sink doorknobs are a big one. Avoid. If you're worried about somebody having conjunctivitis or pink eye, don't go up and shake their hand. Because that's one of the best ways. You can wear this t-shirt that says, sorry, I don't want to shake hands. I don't want to do that. Or you can, like these people in the picture, they're like, nope, I'm not doing that. If you're sick, stay at home with pink eye. Don't go around and give it to other people, because that's no fun. Limit the contact. There's treatment. It really doesn't have a treatment. You really just need to let it run its course. It's usually about 4 to 7 days. It's treated with antibiotic eye drops, ointment, tablets. To reduce pain from conjunctivitis, use cold or warm compress of the eyes. And then how long is it contagious? It's contagious and infection from around the time it appears until the time when you have the symptoms resolved. So really quickly before we're done, to go over, to make sure you understand what we're talking about, we're going to say, is this a symptom or is this a cause of pink eye? And so I'll put the cause over here and the symptoms over here. Just really quick. So if you have a gritty feeling in your eye, is that a symptom of pink eye or is that a cause? It's a symptom. If you have a discharge in your eye, like the gooey eye booger that we talked about, that's another symptom. If you might have a chemical splash in your eye or something gets in there, it's a cause. Allergies, cause or symptom? Cause, very good. Tearing the eye. It's actually a symptom. Remember the person who was crying a lot? You might get a foreign object in the eye, something that's usually not supposed to be there. That's a cause. That can cause pink eye. What about redness in your eye? My eye gets really red or pink. This should be a really easy one. That's a symptom. What about bacteria? Is bacteria a cause or symptom? That's a cause, right? So bacteria will get the or it can take a virus and get that into your eye. Sometimes a blocked tear duct. This mostly is in newborns. A blocked tear duct. For newborns, essentially can be a cause of pink eye. Viruses. This should be an easy one. We just talked about this. A cause, right? A virus is what causes pink eye. And lastly, itchiness in the eye. Good job. That's a symptom. All right. So that is our lesson on pink eye conjunctivitis. Remember, so we just went over asthma and pink eye. And then, so I want you to remember what we talked about. Remember the activity we did with asthma, breathing through that straw. That's kind of just a first-hand example of what people with asthma go through. And then also with pink eye, it's something that we just talked about. It's very contagious. It's not something that you should be running around with. You need to stay at home with it. But the good news about both of these is that they're very common. Like if you have it, the odds of you knowing somebody who's going through the same thing is very high. And so this is a good thing. So we're coming together and we know how to fix these problems and how to do them better than ever before. But that's going to be our 2 lessons on conjunctivitis and asthma. So tomorrow we're going to start on talk about germs and flu. But I want you to go home. So if you weren't able to do the straw test, I want you to grab a straw and then do it quick. It would take you 30 seconds just to get a quick feel of what somebody with asthma has. And now if you know if somebody has pink eye, you know what to do, how to help, and what not to do with it. So I want you all have a great day. We'll continue our lessons tomorrow. See you later.